Thank you. It is amazing to be speaking at Monitorama again, second year in a row, sort of, again in this weird post-pandemic, but not really situation. So I'm really grateful to Jason and Pete, and I don't want to use up my battery time with all that stuff, but all gratitude. So I really appreciate it. All right, so a few years ago, I was tweaking a new alert rule, and I accidentally cut 772 tickets twice in 15 minutes. And the worst part about it was I didn't even know I had done it until the entire help desk showed up at my cubicle and invited me down to their area to help them close the 1,544 tickets with them. And with a little bit of time and experience and some alcohol and therapy, I can reflect on this formative event and sort of think back to what the problem was. Like, whose fault was it? Was it the tool? Was it the operator? I think there's enough blame to go around, but in a larger sense, I think it was an immature philosophy about what an alert actually is. So I want to thank you for sticking around at the end of this day for my talk. Alerts don't suck. Your alerts suck. My name is Adato. I'm a middle-aged white dude giving a conference talk. What else do you need to know about me? I've been working in tech for 35 years. I've been focused on monitoring and observability for 25 of those years. I've used a whole host of tools from Tivoli and Nagios and OpenView all the way through SolarWinds and janky Perl scripts and, of course, New Relic. I've built systems for small, medium, and ludicrously sized organizations and really spent a lot of time digging into what makes monitoring observability and especially alerts tick. I also picked that picture so you have absolute confidence that I know what the hell I'm talking about. But more important, I want you to understand that this is an oyster talk. What I mean is that I've got 30 minutes, maybe less, depending on how long the battery lasts. And in that amount of time, I can't teach you anything. About the only thing I can do in that time is irritate you. Now, when an oyster gets irritated, it does one of two things. It creates a pearl, or it dies. Now, I sincerely hope I do not irritate you to death, but you have been forewarned. Instead, what I hope is that I give you just the grain of an idea that you will then layer over with your own ideas and experiences until what you have is something that is polished and unique and valuable to you. Okay, so the SRE handbook defines alerts as, I'm reading off the screen, a notification intended to be read by a human that is pushed to a system such as a bug or a ticket queue, an email alias, or a pager. Now, not to blaspheme the Holy Scripture or anything, but what the FSCK am I supposed to do with that? I mean, how does that make me feel like alerts are anything except useless and pointless? And that's because the SRE handbook has failed to explain what the value of an alert is. And ultimately, that's what my talk today is about, is how to make alerts valuable. Now, if you remember nothing else from this talk, I want you to have these first two takeaways. I put them right up front for you. The first one is that inbox rules to handle your email alerts are like assholes. Everyone has one and they all stink. What I mean by that is that if you have an email rule to handle your incoming alert messages, you've already admitted defeat. You have stated unequivocally that you have no intent to actually deal with the alert at all, ever. And certainly not right now. And for an alert, the only valid time to respond is right now. And I'll get more into that in a minute, but that's the first takeaway. The second takeaway is that I'd like to welcome you to this hill that I'm willing to die on, which is that FYI alerts are trash. All right? I don't understand the concept of why people would want FYI. And I've heard the excuses. I've heard people say, oh, no, I don't do anything with the first alert, but after I see the alert 4 or 5 times in 15 minutes, then I know it's really something I have to deal with. You know what? I don't get paid by the bushel for these things, so how about I just count up when the event occurs 4 or 5 times in 15 minutes, and I send you one message, and you know to deal with it then. Really, there's no such thing as an FYI alert, and I'm willing to fight anyone who says otherwise. Okay, again, the point of this talk is that alerts need to have value, and I'm going to share the why and the how over the next 5 lessons or so. And the first lesson is on the fundamental nature of what alerts are and aren't. So let's get started. There are 3 important rules to remember. The first one is that alerts are not the same thing as monitoring. And the second one is that alerts are not monitoring. And the third rule is that alerts are absolutely not the same thing as monitoring. Monitoring is nothing more and nothing less than the ongoing, steady, regular collection of data and metrics and information from a set of targets. That's it. Everything else, alerts, but also dashboards and reports and all the rest of it, those are happy byproducts that you get as long as you do the first thing. As long as you do the monitoring. By all means, collect all the data you want. Monitor the crap out of your stuff. I don't care. But alerts should be biased toward action. That's what they're supposed to do. So you're going to obviously monitor a lot more data than you're ever going to alert on, and that's okay. That's how it's supposed to work, in fact. So let me give you an example. Every year, your boss comes back from Monitorama with a new pair of socks and a shiny new observability tool, right? And the first thing you do after you unwrap that sucker, the observability tool, not the socks, after you unwrap that is you create a high CPU alert, because everyone does that. And I have a secret for you. High CPU alerts are bullshit. Really. High CPU isn't a problem. It was never a problem. If an application is running consistently at 98%, but all the jobs are getting done and all the processes are completing, you know what I call that? Correctly sized. That's what that is. Okay. At this moment, you're probably thinking, oh, he's going to oversimplify everything down to CPU and RAM and disk and bandwidth, and he's going to ignore the lived reality that we all have of dealing with a metric ass ton of metrics and events and logs and traces on a daily basis. Because what Leon is talking about is that old school monitoring, and what we deal with is the new shiny observability. I see this happen a lot. I see conversations about alerts get stuck on the point of monitoring versus observability, and it's an inherently false argument. It was never monitoring versus observability. So let me flesh out some of the important nuances here. Now, I'm about to draw a line on the slide, and I do so with the absolute respect and gratitude for everyone who fought and was wounded in the observability flame wars on Twitter over the last few years. Okay, the examples I'm giving, the nuances I'm pulling out are for the purposes of alerting only. So even though I'm not there, I really don't want to find out that Charity Majors has hunted me down and is going to now rip out my intestines. Okay, so also for those of you who are trying to fill out your observability bingo card, here we go, you're welcome. Observability, again, for the purposes of alerting, has a few aspects that matter. The first one is that it's focused on the unknown unknowns, right? I don't know what could go wrong, and I don't know when it could go wrong, or any of that stuff. It also focuses on events that have high cardinality, meaning they're really unique. Not just unique in a specific element, but also in the combination of elements. So that metric ass ton of data we talked about, all those data points together, and the different combinations and permutations, that's also unique and high cardinality. That's an aspect of observability. Also, because of that, it tends to have correlation baked into it, because it's too hard to sort of think about, or again, what Charity would talk about is reason about all those data points individually. And finally, it focuses on the golden signals. All right, the signals that tend to be true about poor or great performance, irrespective of the application of the source, the fundamental elements behind it. Now, monitoring, on the other hand, deals a lot with the known unknowns. All right, I know this stuff is going to break, I just don't know when. Okay, whether it's hardware or software or a combination of the two or whatever it is, I know this stuff tends to break, and I just want to know what happens. Also, all cardinalities are important. All cardinalities matter in the sense that if something is really common, I still need to know about it because it still has value to the organization to know when it broke and what we can do about it. The correlation, therefore, often is manual because, again, it tends to be more specific and common, and so I can reason about it more readily, and so I tend to put the correlation together myself. And finally, it's domain-specific signals, meaning that the signals that matter to a particular set of hardware or an application type or whatever are unique and don't relate back to other hardware or application types. So those are some nuances, and the reason why I pull those out is that if we look at just the observability side of that line, okay, high cardinality events, especially high cardinality events that are derived from a large set of disparate data points, how are you going to alert on that? Well, there's really only one way to get there, and that's to let the computers do the work. Now, at this point, the marketing folks are going to jump on the stage and say, yes, we're going to use AI, and we're going to have ChatGPT, which is the preferred way of pronouncing it according to Corey Quinn, ChatGPT, and we're going to do all this stuff. And the trouble with saying AI is that we all understand that it is a bullshit marketing term for 3 if statements in a trench coat. Now, joking aside, you can see, though, with all of those aspects, again, that high cardinality, a lot of data points, how it would be challenging to talk about alerts in that context. I'm not saying that all of the thoughts that I'm sharing today on alerts don't apply to observability systems and solutions, because they do. It's just challenging to give detailed examples without keeping you all here past the next happy hour. So that's why my examples tend to be a little bit more simple for the time being. All right, back on track. Lesson 3, alerts have to matter. To you, of course. Of course they have to matter. But more importantly, to whoever's getting them. Now, what do I mean when I say that alerts have to matter? Well, there's a simple algorithm to understand if this alert has been built to matter. All right? If and only if all these conditions must be true. If the intent of the alert is to get a person to do something about it right now, about a problem that is happening right now. If those things are true, it's an alert. Otherwise, it's not. That's just how it works. Alerts are biased toward action and a bias toward immediate action. Otherwise, there's something else. So naturally, you're asking yourself, okay, well, what's the something else that they're supposed to be? All right, let me break that down. If it's not involving a human, what you're talking about is automation, and I will talk more about that in a minute. If it's not supposed to be dealt with right now, what you're dealing with is a report. If it's not dealing with a problem, then what you're talking about is probably a dashboard, just a place where information is happening. And this one's most important. If no one is going to do anything about it, no one is going to do something, delete it. It serves no purpose. It's the same thing as those FYI alerts, all right? If no one's going to do something about it, you are wasting cycles, you're wasting workload, you're wasting processing power, because it doesn't actually have any value. Get rid of it. Now, there are 3 common pitfalls to creating alerts that matter, and the first is the trigger condition itself. So let me go back to that CPU alert I mentioned earlier. As I said, high CPU alert, high CPU by itself, not a problem, correctly sized. However, if I have high CPU and also there are more jobs in the processor queue than I have CPUs on the system to handle it, and that situation is lasting longer than a particular period of time, now I have 2 things. I have something very different from just high CPU, it's more than 80%, wow. Like, no, all right? But more than that, I know what to do about that. CPU is high, more jobs in the CPU queue than the processor queue than I have CPUs to manage. Now I know it. I'm going to elastic compute my way up so I have more CPUs. I'm going to reduce the number of jobs. I can do things about this. And that's a very different situation than what I described earlier. And our goal as people developing alerts that don't suck is to think about, how do I build this in a way that indicates what action should be taken, that I'm taking all of that into account. Another issue, another pitfall, is that it's not the triggers necessarily, but it's the time frame. Now, everyone looks at this graph, which I got from Leon Fayer. And if you have a chance to hear either one of the Leons, you want to talk to Leon Fayer. He's the superior Leon in every context. In any case, everyone looks at this graph, and they say they know exactly what to alert them. They can see the problem. It's right there, staring in the face, right? But that spike might be completely normal. That might be end-of-month processing, or it might be elastic compute, realizing that you're running at a really low rate, and so it just drops a bunch of systems. And so now it appears to go high because relatively it's running hotter, but it's really because there are fewer systems involved or whatever it is, okay? What we all miss, all of us, is that spike. It's the exact same amount. It's also 4,000. But our human brains aren't designed to detect that because it's occurring over such a long period of time. This is what monitoring and observability solutions are built for. And this is what we should be thinking about alerting about. Not just that rise. It's not always one thing, right? But it's this rise in conjunction with other elements. And this comes out of the fact that we have to prize and include and normalize time as one of the fundamental aspects of our alert triggers. So the third trap is having a lack of automation. So again, simple example, I know. When the disk is full, we all do the same thing. We are all going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to clear the temp queue, the temp directory. That's what we're going to do. We're going to clear out those temp drives, and we're going to blow the disk away and rebuild it or whatever, but we're going to clear it out. Now, the question is, if that's what we do every single time, why not have the computer do it for you? And as a proof, I implemented this at one company, and that one piece of automation, ridiculously simple and simplistic, right? That cut 3,000 tickets a month out of the number of tickets that were being thrown to the help desk. 3,000 tickets. It also represented $8,000 of staff time that didn't occur anymore because it was just automatically being taken care of. Because we clear the temp queue, and if the problem goes away, we go back to bed. That's it. If the problem persists, now that's another problem. And that gets us into more about automation. See, one of the most powerful aspects of alerts is that they are witness to the exact moment when a problem occurs. Nothing can be more effective than having the right response at exactly the right moment. So a lot of folks will skip over automation, though, because they think it's hard, or they don't know where to start, or they're not quite sure what to do, and they don't know how to figure out what to do because the alert itself is sometimes complicated. And the truth is that figuring out what automation you need is really easy. All you have to do is find the person who's getting that alert right now, today, and ask them this question. When something goes wrong, when you get this alert, what do you do about it? They're probably going to say something like, oh, yeah, I typed the gafrinkle command, and then I see what happens after that. Okay? Oh, well, how about I have the computer type the gafrinkle command for you, and then I'll let you know what happens. Like, that's what automation is all about. Having that conversation allows you to find out what the workflow is and to be able to insert yourself into that. Now, the really cool part about this is that those conversations will lead to really interesting automation routines that are both effective and also comprehensible. They're not necessarily the fanciest or the most difficult to code, but they are really powerful. You know, for example, again, slightly simplistic example. I've got an application running on an IIS server and it's running slow. All right, that's what I detected. So what's the first thing we do when something on IIS is running slow? We clear the application pool. We always do that. It's just what you do. And then you wait. And if the problem doesn't go away, then you restart the IIS service because that's what you do. And then you wait a minute, 2, 3, whatever it is. And if the problem doesn't go away, then you rebuild the image or you restart the server, depending on what kind of environment you're in or whatever. And you wait and you see what happens. And if that doesn't work, then you vMotion or you move to a new region or whatever it is. And then you wait. And if that doesn't, now you send a ticket because I'm all out of options. I don't have anything else I can try. But the really interesting thing to look at with that kind of flow is that when a human gets the ticket, they know that those things have already been done. And hopefully they get the output from all of those commands so that they know the result of all of those actions. And now they can step in with their human brain and they can start to think about, well, okay, that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work, so now what could it be? All right, you have helped them leap ahead in time along the way. But where do you get those steps? All right, if you have a lot of experience in tech, then maybe you know about this, but you don't have to be that person. What you have to do is ask that question, is ask, you know, when you see this problem, what do you do about it? And just keep working on it. And as you learn more, the automation grows and that process flow continues. All right, and that leads to probably the most important lesson of all. Talking to people nicely. Nobody at your company is a psychopathic, homicidal clown. Probably, I hope. But you talk with them with the same determination of the world's greatest detective hunting down the real killer of my app 123. What I mean by that is that the only way you're going to understand how critical an application or an issue is, the only way you're going to understand how much someone cares about the performance of a particular system is to talk with them and to get that context. And that puts you into the hunt for the great useful alert. Okay? I say hunt because you need to find the recipient of the alert, not the requester. And you're usually going to talk to the requester first. And I got news for you. They lie. All the time. They lie to you because to you, for the requester of the alert, you are just a checkbox on their way to pushing the prod. Did you hit an alert? Yes, I did. Ha ha ha. Moving on. No, they're going to say, no problems here. We've built this baby like a steel rock made of angel farts and unicorn spit. It's going to work fine. They're going to lie to you, all right? You need to get to the person who's living with the system day by day. Now, these are the questions that have helped me zero in on what really matters about this once you find that person. First of all, how do you know when something went wrong? Okay, not, okay, the users are calling me or the VP is threatening to fire me or whatever it is, but like when you jump on the system and you say, you look at this and you type the Gafrinkle command or whatever, it's like, oh, now I know there's a problem. That's going to give you an indication of what triggers you're going to need. How do you know that it's all better? This is important and something that we don't consider a lot is that, yeah, there's the trigger for when the problem occurs, but sometimes you have something that's sawtoothing. And that means that, it's not better, it's just back. And you want to know what better looks like so that you can put that into the system as well. Is there a knowledge base article for this? Yet. Because if there isn't, there needs to be. I will not roll an alert into production unless there is a knowledge base article, because some poor slob is going to get this message at 2 o'clock in the morning, and if there's no anything that indicates what they should be doing about it, I'm not doing that to somebody. And so we're going to build the knowledge article. Even if the knowledge article says, yeah, call Bob. Like, okay, poor Bob. But, hopefully there's something better than that. But there has to be a knowledge article about it. And finally, make that thing happen, that problem happen on purpose. If you can't make it happen on purpose, you don't understand the problem well enough yet. You don't know what the cause, and that means that your trigger actions aren't going to be correct either. Now, obviously, there are cases when you don't want to do this, right? Like, if you have an alert that tells you when the data center is on fire, obviously don't make that happen. But obviously, there's ways to deal with that, of course. Okay. A little bit of a bonus round because everyone's like, won't ChatGPT save me from all of this? Now, I am not saying that AI is garbage and it can't possibly work. My experience is that large language models are effectively calculators. And what I mean by that is if I'm balancing my checkbook and I use the square root function, something is horribly wrong, either with my finances or my ability to do math. Having a calculator doesn't make me do it better because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Having ChatGPT or an AI, tool doesn't help me if I don't know anything about it. I have to be able to ask the right questions in the right way. And if I do that, then AI is an amazing asset. But if I don't do that, if I can't do that, then it's going to be really hard. Oh, okay, I have to pause.
Hi, Leon. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
So I had a little notice on my laptop that says I need to upgrade to Zoom Pro. So I've done that on my phone, but it doesn't seem to recognize that on the laptop. So if you could give me just a second to maybe Alt-Tab out.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
This is great.
You won't see this at a KubeCon, will you?
Welcome to Monitorama, folks, where anything can happen.
What you missed was Jason furiously purchasing Zoom from his mobile device backstage. Yeah, just yeah. No, you already bought it. He actually already bought it. So, where's the? Yeah,
the thing is that I don't think it kicks in if you're already on a call.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of.
All right,
hey, Leon, can we log out really quick?
Yeah.
And log back in, and we'll meet you up. Thank you.
All right, yeah, just retry.
I mean, I guess we didn't technically need to purchase it, but
well,
why am I not the host? Oh, because I've got to join with. This is so. Oh, it's. What are you doing? No, it's Zoom, man. All right.
The Zoom employees in the audience crouched down lower.
Sorry, I've got to jump over to Google Calendar really quick so I can rejoin this.
Why don't you
Why?
This is like explaining to my mom how to do this.
Okay. Did you let him know to join up again?
Oh. Is it the same link?
Yes.
He's gonna be like, what link? The link doesn't work.
He's in and waiting. Awesome. Oh, there he is.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, there we go.
Hey!
We are consummate professionals here, Leon.
This is amazing. No, really, this is host disabled screen sharing. Give me my screen sharing back, man.
There you go.
All
Try
right,
again.
let's see. There we go. All right. And share.
Beautiful.
And there we are. Delightful. Okay,
Thank you, Leon.
keep going.
Yes,
No
sir.
problem.
All yours.
Thank you to everyone in the audience for enjoying that. This is like, look, man, you don't see you see things at Monitorama that you'll never see anywhere else. That's the truth. All right, let's bring this one home. All right, so like I said, I'm not saying that AI is garbage. It can't possibly work. I tend to, when people say ChatGPT, I tend to think calculator. We talked about my inability to balance a checkbook. If you can ask the right questions in the right way, AI models can be incredibly, useful and amazing assets. The trouble is that I think we'll all agree that not all of our users have that level of domain knowledge and understanding to be able to ask those questions with that level of specificity. And that's where things can go off the rails in terms of, will AI remove all this toil? It won't unless all of our users have a level of knowledge that's kind of a little higher. And I want to give you a non-technical example. We've read about ones where, like, the lawyer got fake rules, and the other day somebody asked ChatGPT if, how many prime numbers end in 2, and it said there were 5 of them or something like that. Like, we've all seen those examples. I'm going to use one from actually my tradition in Orthodox Judaism. There's actually an AI model called Rebbe.io, and they fed basically all of Scripture into it. They fed the Torah, they fed prophets, Psalms, Song of Songs, all of it, and also 2,711 pages of Talmud, along with all the commentary from the sages going basically back to Mount Sinai. Like everything. And so you have all Jewish knowledge, all the wisdom in there. And then we asked a question, is turkey kosher? And the answer we got back, and I'm going to read this to you just so you can understand how interesting the failure is. Okay, it says, turkey is not considered kosher according to Torah sources. Okay, the Torah specifies that only certain animals are considered kosher, and turkey is not one of them. The criteria for an animal to be considered kosher include having split hooves and chewing its cud for mammals, or having fins and scales for fish. While turkey does have split hooves, it does not chew its cud, and therefore it is not considered kosher. It's important to consult with a qualified rabbi or kashrut authority for specific guidance on what foods are. Okay, you can see how incredible this is in that all those sentences make sense, but it's like an alien who's never actually seen a turkey has been writing it. All right? And that's with all the information from all of Scripture fed into it. And it made that mistake. So when we're talking about, will AI and large language model tools be able to help us when we've fed into it all of our monitoring data? The answer to that is, well, yeah, but you have to ask the question just right, and you have to understand the information that you're getting back to make sure that it jives with reality. And when we're talking about observability with high cardinality events and a metric ass ton of data, I think that also brings to bear the question of, can you know if you're not getting accurate information? That's a thing. By the way, I did take that answer and I fed it into DALL-E to find out what this animal, this kosher turkey, would look like. And so it drew one for me, which was kind of cool. All right. So let me wrap this up. We have identified and interviewed the recipient to find out what matters to them and what's important. We've designed an alert that matters because it uses real-world triggers, and it takes the duration of the issue into account, and it includes automation, and it has been verified. We've verified that the alert is built with the intent for immediate human action. We've done all the things. What's left? So this takes me to my final lesson. It's the shortest, but it's also the biggest burden on you. Once you've set up an alert, for someone, even if that's you, yourself, you can just forget it, right? Like, it's set up and it's done. You can walk away. It's going to be perfect forever. No. You need to go back regularly as part of your process. You need to go, whether it's once a quarter or every 6 months, and you need to see how that alert is fair. You need to ask the recipients, is this working for you? You need to find out, is the alert triggering too much? Is it triggering never? Because that's also a problem. What happens when it does trigger? Is it auto-closed by some other system? Because that's not useful. Again, we don't get paid by the bushel, so I don't want to know that you're auto-closing it. I want to know that you're acting on it. Is the ticket being left open forever because that keeps any other ticket from being opened? Also not okay. And I see that all the time. Is it triggering on the right things still? Because things change. Is it running the correct automation? Because that changes. Is it capturing the right information along the way? Because that changes. The reality is that tools change, and applications change, and user patterns change, and we change along the way. But the work continues. Now, I promised at the beginning that I might irritate you. It doesn't look like, I'm looking in the camera, it doesn't look like anyone is dead. Pete and Jason will confirm it for me, or asleep. So I want to thank you again for your time and for the battery lasting this long, and I am ready for your questions.
Do we want, you're going to just look at us? That's kind of weird, I guess. Yeah. I mean, turn it around.
Hi, guys! Hi!
All right.
This is amazing.
Yeah, are there any questions from the audience? I'd love to field them off to Leon. No? Yeah, I mean, it is approaching 5. All right.
Yeah, right. It's time for a happy hour. No one wants to talk.
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, as a reminder, there is a Slack channel. Leon obviously can't go anywhere, so he will be at your disposal in Slack. But now that we do have him unmuted, he was unfortunately muted during all of your great laughter. So let's first give him some great laughter for all of those hilarious jokes. And a round of applause. Leon, appreciate the flexibility during Jason's epic fuck up. We actually did a post-mortem in the back. It was not a blameless post-mortem. We realized what we did, so we did test it. We had this set up, we had audio, it was sounding great, the video worked. But it was very clearly a test and staging because we didn't power the laptop because we were just doing a quick test. So, yeah, nice one.
Amazing. Well, thank you all again, and have a great evening, and I will be hopefully back next year for this live and in person.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Leon. Really appreciate it.